demand by the US president that Bagram Airbase must be returned to Americans. That demand was rejected only by Afghan Taliban. Now this demand comes from major regional power players, including Russia, then China, then Afghanistan, then Pakistan, then in India. What is the strategic significance of this military base? Why Americans wanted to get it back?
Because of the America's renewed strategic interests in the region, because Taliban regime in Afghanistan has also established itself and consolidated its control in Afghanistan. It's expanding its engagement with other regional countries. And Afghan Taliban have not conformed to or have not complied to certain demands by United States and international community, like inclusivity, actions against terrorist groups on their soil, and human rights framework. So that's why this demand has now been surfaced. China and Russia gradually are increasing their space and increasing their influence and increasing their presence in the region, in Afghanistan and the region around it. Afghan Taliban or any Afghan setup is not likely to now allow the return of Bagram base to the United States. So I think the intention is actually the manifestation of their strategic interests in the region. The United States is interested in terms of regional peace and stability, a counterterrorism framework, a kind of stability in the region. United States pressure on Afghan Taliban regime will increase because all the US intelligence and security reports, all the UN intelligence and security reports have continued to indicate for last 4 years that there is a significant presence of terrorist groups on Afghan soil. As a result of this increasing divergence or differences between Pakistan and Afghanistan on the one hand, and this friction between US and Afghan Taliban, there may be pressure on Pakistan by the United States to do something against Afghanistan in terms of counter-terrorism campaign.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello and welcome to Program Insight in Videos English. Dear viewers, there is a very important development, and that development is that Moscow format. Moscow format is a known mechanism for dialogue on peace, security, and development in Afghanistan. So Russia hosted this Moscow format consultations on Afghanistan. These consultations, this meeting which took place in Moscow was attended by, of course, hosted by Russians, attended by Chinese, Pakistani officials, then India, and then, of course, Afghanistan also. An important outcome of this meeting is that the participating countries, without naming any country, rejected the demand of the return of Bagram Airbase. And they also noted that there should not be any foreign military presence in Afghanistan. In addition to this significant development, the Moscow format also discussed counter-terrorism initiatives and efforts by Afghan Taliban, and they urged Afghan Taliban to act more effectively and precisely against terrorists operating or based in Afghanistan. That poses direct threat to not only regional countries, but it also poses threat to international peace and security. But who demanded that Bagram Airbase? A very precise information about Bagram Airbase. Bagram Airbase was built by American forces while they stayed in Afghanistan for almost 2 decades. And it was state-of-the-art defense complex of the American forces which were operating in Afghanistan. So on 15th of August 2021, when American forces left, Bagram Air Base was handed over to Afghan Taliban. Why America is asking Afghan Taliban that this base should be returned to Americans? Because of its strategic location. And that strategic location is that through Bagram Airbase, America may watch, may monitor, and may watch a number of strategic developments in and around that region. To discuss this all, we are fortunate to have with us in today's conversation Pakistan's former seasoned diplomat, Ambassador Mansoor Ahmed Khan, who has served in Afghanistan as Pakistan's ambassador. Ambassador Mansoor Ahmed Khan, sir, very warm welcome to Program Insight in V News English.
Very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mateen Saab. Thank you.
So I would like to have your opinion that this is quite significant. Now, previously, the demand by the U.S. president that Bagram Air Base must be returned to Americans, that demand was rejected only by Afghan Taliban. Now this demand comes from major regional power players, including Russia, then China, then Afghanistan, then Pakistan, then in India. So question is, what is the strategic significance of this military base? Why Americans wanted to get it back?
Ji Mateen Saab, now 4 years have gone since Taliban took over Afghanistan in August 2021. And after 4 years, after lapse of 4 years, we are seeing important developments are now taking place in the region in relating to Afghanistan, around Afghanistan again. And we saw that during the recent visit of Pakistan's Prime Minister to the US, when other leaders were also there, this demand suddenly came from President Trump that he wants Bagram base back. Now, the thing is that in 2021, as a result of Doha Peace Agreement, when the US and NATO forces had left, the agreement between Afghan Taliban and the United States and NATO was that all forces would leave and no foreign forces will remain present in Bagram or anywhere else. And actually, very interestingly, Bagram is one of the most strategically located bases. Bagram is one of the most developed bases. It was founded or established by Russians in 1950s, but then during the US and NATO presence in Afghanistan in the last 20 years, it was developed as a modern base. So it is an important strategic base. And the base was not just
a military base.
A military base, and the military base was not just vacated in August 2021, but it was vacated a couple of months before, or I think 1.5 months before 15th August 2021. So Americans at that time were, committed to withdrawal, and they withdrew from the base. But now I think because of the America's renewed strategic interests in the region, because Taliban regime in Afghanistan has also established itself and consolidated its control in Afghanistan. It's expanding its engagement with other regional countries. And Afghan Taliban have not conformed to or have not complied to certain demands by United States and international community, like inclusivity, actions against terrorist groups on their soil, and human rights framework. So that's why this demand has now been surfaced, and it also reflects the changing geopolitical realities. China and Russia gradually are increasing their space and increasing their influence and increasing their presence in the region, in Afghanistan and the region around it. And United States perhaps is feels that some kind of presence in on one of the bases in Afghanistan can be useful for its strategic interest. So whatever the reason that this demand has now come, and following the demand, as you have also stated, rebuttal came from Afghanistan, then it came from the 4 countries, Pakistan, Russia, China, Iran, and now the wider group of 10 countries at the Moscow format has, in a very timely manner, issued a very categoric statement that no return of the base or no foreign military presence in Afghanistan once again, is acceptable not only to Afghanistan but the regional countries, neighboring countries of Afghanistan. So it's a major development, I think.
So, as you said, it's a major development, but as you earlier said, that it was beyond a military base, it was a full-fledged defense complex with intelligence equipment, with military equipment, with American Central Intelligence Agency offices, and multiple other American offices. So now, under Doha Agreement, once Americans left, why they felt need again to be in Afghanistan? It is basically again to, as I said earlier, to monitor the regional countries and have a strategic look at intelligence on Russia, on China, on Iran, and possibly also could be on Pakistan. This could be the motive.
Yes, first of all, it's like a full-fledged military cantonment. It's like a military town. It's it's not too far from Kabul, so its accessibility is
It's
also
basically in the outskirts of Kabul.
yeah, it's just 1 hour or 45 minutes drive or 20 minutes flight from Kabul. So it's very accessible. And it was vacated, or it was, withdrawal of US and NATO forces took place from Afghanistan when President Trump came into power during his first term. His view was that that United States should withdraw from all foreign wars, should call its troops back, whether from Iraq or from Afghanistan, and these wars are not affordable for the US. And now, then he was when actual withdrawal took place, Trump had already lost the election, and withdrawal took place during the presidency of Biden. And Trump actually continues to blame Biden that he did not, he should have kept Bagram with United States. So it's very, surprising kind of turn which has been taken by President Trump in his second term, where he is saying that United States needs to, for its own strategic interest, needs a kind of presence in Afghanistan, and Bagram is the place he thinks that United States should remain present. But I think the U.S. establishment, U.S. intelligence, U.S. security forces, and even President Trump would also know that Afghan Taliban or any Afghan setup is not likely to now allow the return of Bagram base to the United States. So I think the intention is actually the manifestation of their strategic interests in the region, and also conveying to the regional powers, conveying to the countries around like China, Russia, Central Asia, Pakistan, Iran, that United States has an interest in the region, and United States will continue to take interest in the region and will continue to, either through counterterrorism or through participation in regional connectivity initiatives, mineral exploration, business initiatives, etc., will remain an important part of the strategic landscape of this region. So I think the message is that United States will remain actively engaged, and this is also actually a very good indication in the sense that if United States is interested in terms of regional peace and stability, a counterterrorism framework, a kind of stability in the region, so United States, China, Russia, and the countries of the region should work out a regional format or regional mechanism for bringing stability to the region.
Ambassador Khan Saab, since over the last couple of months, we have seen very close strategic partnership between Islamabad and Washington. Do you think at any moment, as the American president is determined to get this military base back, as he has said a number of times, do you think at any stage Americans could seek Islamabad's help in getting this base back, and Pakistan could be useful in such tasks?
At the moment, United States and Afghan Taliban are not near any kind of agreement for return of the base. And Afghan Taliban
There's no any such provision that Taliban may return this base. True.
Well, I cannot say for sure, but I think indications are that it will be very difficult for any Afghan government, any Afghan regime, any Afghan setup for handing over an Afghan base or Bagram base back to the United States. It will be a highly unpopular decision at the public level. So, in my view, it's not likely to happen. But then United States pressure on Afghan Taliban regime will increase, because all the US intelligence and security reports, all the UN intelligence and security reports have continued to indicate for last 4 years that there is a significant presence of terrorist groups on Afghan soil. Afghanistan, interestingly, continues to deny that. And you saw in the recent Moscow format meeting, there was a divergence between Pakistan's statement and Afghan foreign minister's statement. So, as a result of this increasing divergence or differences between Pakistan and Afghanistan on the one hand, and this friction between US and Afghan Taliban, there may be pressure on Pakistan by the United States to do something against Afghanistan in terms of counter-terrorism campaigns, and that I believe will have serious implications for Pakistan also, because our border region has already been a theater of battle, counter-terrorism warfare for decades now, and already TTP and BLA are playing havoc in Pakistan in terms of terrorism. Yesterday, I think there was, or today, I think this morning, there was another
in Orakzai.
Yeah,
one of the biggest battle, exactly.
Yeah, many security personnel, Pakistan's many security personnel lost their life.
Including a serving lieutenant colonel.
Exactly. So senior security personnel of Pakistan lost their lives. So if the heat in this, counter-terrorism in our border region increases, it will have implications of security for Pakistan, particularly for Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan. So it's a very, very complex situation. It's not just simply a demand by a superpower or United States to acquire a military base and be present there. It has implications for peace and stability of the region. And then Pakistan has relations with China, very important strategic relations with China. Pakistan has important relations with its neighbor, Iran, and then Pakistan's relations with Central Asia and Russia. So I think in the coming months and years, the activity or the dialogue around or interaction around these issues is likely to gain momentum and likely to intensify further, I think.
Ambassador Khan Saab, there was another element in the Moscow format meeting that participating countries called on Afghanistan, that Afghanistan must pay attention on one aspect that you have already highlighted: counterterrorism, governance, and human rights. Do you think Afghans will now pay attention, because it is a regional mechanism and a regional dialogue, and neighboring countries which take care of Afghanistan with the utmost sincerity? There are no American presence in Afghanistan or in the Moscow format meeting. So do you think Afghans will now pay attention to the call by the participating countries that Afghanistan must improve its governance, particularly human rights, women rights, and counterterrorism?
In my view, Afghan Taliban had a very good opportunity in last 4 years when US and NATO forces left. So after decades, there was no foreign military presence on Afghan soil. And therefore, there was an opportunity for addressing all these issues which you have mentioned.
Independently, exactly.
Yeah, and in the interest of Afghan nation itself or Afghan people, particularly inclusivity, because Afghanistan is a multicultural, multi-ethnic country, and all Afghanistan's communities have to be part of the governance system. Then on human rights, particularly when we talk about rights of women or we talk about the child going to school, and then counter-terrorism, which has been cooperation, as terrorism has been, causing loss of hundreds of thousands of lives in our countries for decades now. So on all these issues, it would have made a big difference if Pakistan and Afghan Taliban government and Afghan Taliban government and other countries of the region would have reached some kind of framework, some kind of consensus. Now it is good that in Moscow format, through Russian initiative, 10 countries have to come together and they are making this demand collectively. Now, I think it will have its impact, yes, but I think will also be important because of specific importance or particular significance of Pakistan-Afghanistan bilateral relations. It would be important that Pakistan should engage with Afghanistan, or Pakistan and Afghanistan. I'm calling upon both countries. Pakistan and Afghanistan should engage bilaterally on all aspects of the relations relating to trade, transit, relations relating to movement of people, relations relating to refugees, and also security and counter-terrorism issue. Because the participation in Moscow format and their statements coming at the Moscow format indicate that there are divergences in their views on counterterrorism. So these divergences can only be overcome if there is a serious effort for engaging with each other at a much deeper level. And this is in the interest of both countries. This will also enable the two countries to more effectively and more coordinatively participate in the regional fora and in the international meetings. So I think yes, regional forums should play an important role like Moscow format. And two, bilateral level, Pakistan and Afghanistan need to take some measures.
And of course, when you are saying that Pakistan and Afghanistan should get engaged bilaterally, but this rise of terrorism, as in today Orakzai agency, one Pakistan Army Lieutenant Colonel, another one serving Pakistan Army Major, and number of other soldiers lost their lives in one of the most severe battle with the militants, with the terrorists. These terrorists continue to come from across the border. So do you think ultimately in the days to come, Pakistan have been politely conveying to Afghan Taliban through military means, through political channel, through diplomatic channel, and while you were serving as an ambassador, number of times such communication with the requests came from Islamabad that Taliban must act decisively against these terrorist hideouts, which are posing direct threat to Pakistan's security. They are directly attacking Pakistan. So what prevents Afghan Taliban for not paying attention? What could be their strategic interest?
Yeah, you see, we look at Pakistan's demands, and you are right, Pakistan has been conveying it for last 4 years, not only last 4 years, even before that with the previous government, that TTP and BLA and such other entities have been undertaking terrorism in Pakistan, and there is a need for Afghan government, whichever government is in power, to take measures against these entities. Pakistan has been taking up this issue with the Afghan side for many years now. I think at least for 10 to 12 years. But when you look at the response which we have got from Afghanistan, it is short of the cooperation, short of the level of cooperation that Pakistan anticipated or Pakistan desired. And at the same time, from Afghan side, a new kind of narrative is developing that Afghanistan is now free of all the terrorist groups. There are no terrorist groups on Afghan soil. And if Daesh or any other groups are present, they are present in other neighboring countries. So, or other countries of the region. So maybe an implied reference towards Pakistan. So I think this indicates that the two countries are talking at each other and not talking to each other. What I am saying is that, when your narratives are there, you know what kind of allegations are coming from each side, and you have a 2,600 kilometer long border, which has gone through Afghan jihad, which has gone through insurgency, which has gone through every kind of militancy. So the pragmatic choice, the wiser choice, the expedient choice would be for both sides to sit together and resolve this issue through a dialogue, bilateral dialogue. The things have to start bilaterally between Pakistan and Afghanistan.
Ambassador Khan Sahab, Afghan Taliban had not paid attention on international demand that women should be given equal rights. There should be no restriction on art, culture, and such activities. But Taliban continue to impose restrictions on art, culture, and related activities in Afghanistan. And all such artists, activists, performing arts activists, there are restrictions on them. But international community is precisely concerned over restrictions on women. Women restriction, they cannot do job. Women cannot undertake studies. So do you think Taliban at any stage, in order to get cooperation from regional countries and from international cooperation, they can reverse this decision?
When Taliban came into power or resumed power in August 2021, there was an expectation of the international community, there was an expectation of the neighboring countries, and there was an expectation of Afghan people themselves that Afghan Taliban would gradually move towards normalized life in Afghanistan, and some kind of human rights framework, some formula for inclusivity, and a counter-terrorism cooperation mechanism with the neighboring and regional countries. But in last 4 years, significant progress or considerable progress in these areas has not been seen. And as you are saying, unfortunately, there have been disturbing reports of increasing restrictions in many areas in various spheres of life in Afghanistan. In the meantime, Afghanistan has also been engaging or expanding its engagement with its neighbors, with the regional countries, and with the international community. And now you see that there are restrictions, but Afghan Taliban government officials, Afghan Taliban regime are given opportunity to engage with many countries. And like in Moscow format, 10 countries were present, where Afghanistan was also formally present in that regime, in that regional meeting. So I think if Afghanistan has to now increase its mainstreaming in international community, and its role in has to acquire its deserved role or its due role in the international institutions like United Nations, OIC, and other fora, then it will have to pay attention to the areas you have mentioned, the areas we are discussing. Because without that, it will be very difficult to conceive for me or for anyone else as to how a country with or how a system or how a group with such a ideology, not accepting human rights, not accepting inclusivity principles, not accepting many other norms of international law and norms of international behavior, how it will be recognized internationally and will acquire its own, seat in the United Nations and other international fora. So I think it is important for Afghan Taliban and for Afghan people that Afghan government or Afghan Taliban regime should pay attention to these realities. It is in the interest of Afghan nation. It is in the interest of peace and stability in Afghanistan, and then Afghanistan's relations with the neighbors, region, and other countries.
Finally, I would like to seek your comments. It is this current setup in Kabul is considered as an interim setup. 4 years have passed. Afghan Taliban were supposed to engage with other political elements. There are religious parties in Afghanistan. There are other liberal political forces in Afghanistan. Why all other political religious parties in Afghanistan, which used to be very active in Afghanistan's political matters long time back, why they are silent and they have finally accepted Afghan Taliban? And Afghan Taliban themselves, they have promised to hold election. They have promised to revisit Afghan constitution. But so far, no progress on political front in Afghanistan.
When Taliban returned to power again I'll repeat that when Taliban returned to power in Afghanistan in August 2021, they were the strongest political and military force in Afghanistan. So there was no other force which could compete with Taliban at that time. And therefore, Taliban occupied the
Took
country.
over.
They consolidated the control of took over Afghanistan and consolidated their control. And they have kind of remained unchallenged in last 4 years. But if when looking at a longer term picture, the other forces disappeared at that time, or were sidelined, or went to other places, or were kept quiet. Now these Afghan groups would also be gradually demanding that there should be restoration of civil rights in Afghanistan. There should be increase of inclusivity in Afghanistan. There should be other restrictions. Any restrictions in Afghanistan should be removed. And we are seeing that such demands are being made by Afghans from within Afghanistan, as well as those Afghan people, Afghan diaspora in many other countries. And I think it is a genuine right of Afghan people to demand these things. And Afghan Taliban, in my view, should also look at it constructively and try to undertake necessary reforms. They should focus on, I think they should pay attention to evolving a constitutional framework for the country, whatever constitutional framework on which Afghans can come on board. So I think these are important areas, and these areas should be paid attention to by Afghan Taliban for the interest of peace and stability in Afghanistan, the region, and internationally also.
Finally, what do you think? What will be the future of Afghanistan? As Afghan Taliban are not flexible one, they are not listening to international community. First time they participated in Moscow format meeting. So keeping in view their rigid position on many strategic, many national issues, do you think Afghanistan has a bright future?
I think yes, because Afghan Taliban are one, aspect of Afghanistan's nationhood, Afghanistan's politics. They are at the moment the strongest of the Afghan forces, and they are controlling Afghanistan, and they are governing Afghanistan quite effectively. They are also expanding their engagement with the countries of the region and with the international community. But when you talk about a longer term progress of Afghan nation, they will have to, I think, pay attention to all these issues. But these are actually issues internal to Afghanistan's sovereignty, and Afghans will have to take decision as to how they will evolve. But I think because since 2021, the country has not returned to any kind of civil war or any kind of anarchy. Mm-hmm. So that is a positive thing. And now the pressure on Afghan Taliban is increasing as a demand for bringing reforms. So pressure is always good. And I think pressure can always bring positive changes. It will be important that things should not go back to any kind of anarchy or any kind of violence or any kind of return of conflict and war, which Afghanistan has been through for past 4 decades.
Thank you so much indeed, Ambassador retired Mansoor Ahmed Khan, Pakistan's former ambassador to Afghanistan, for speaking in Program Insight in V News English and exclusively highlighting the strategic importance of Afghanistan and also the Moscow format, the format which is focused on peace, security, and development of Afghanistan, including counterterrorism. And Afghan Taliban, as you said, need to focus on the demand of Moscow format. That is peace, that is security, that is development, and that is also counterterrorism. If counterterrorism efforts are sincerely pushed forward by Afghan Taliban, there would not only be peace in Afghanistan, there would also be development and progress in Afghanistan, not only in Afghanistan, but also in the region, the regional countries which are quite concerned about Afghanistan. Thank you so much, Ambassador Mansoor Saab, once again. And dear viewers, till our next program, goodbye and Khuda Hafiz.
Khuda Hafiz.